Violet. Welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
So I'm Violet, and I'm the founder and creative director at Georgie Paws. And yeah, it's a sustainable dog accessory brand that I started when I was 13. So that's 9 years ago this year, which is kind of crazy. And yeah,
This is wild. Talk to me about starting a business at 13. I have never heard of this before.
it was pretty wild, but it started off like most business ideas did, as an idea. This one came to me on a very long car drive coming back to Adelaide from Sydney with my mum. I play winter sport. I originally wanted to make dog coats. My mum was in the rag trade. She's like, absolutely not. I'm not having a warehouse or a house full of dog coats. It's ridiculous, which is a bit crazy now because now we have a house full of dog collars, leads, and chew toys. And I thought of what does almost every dog need? It's a collar. I was inspired by sort of the equine industry with the polo belts, and it sort of just gave it a shot. I did a lot of retail markets, a lot of interest. I had my own website that I built, which was really dingy, but it's much better now. And yeah, just sort of went from there. I remember we did one market where it was super drizzly and it was horrible, didn't sell a single thing. And I remember saying to my mum, I could have stayed home, I could have watched a movie. What else can I do? Surely there's another way. And that's when she first introduced me to wholesale. And a couple months later, in February 2017, I did my first trade show in Sydney. And yeah, I got 10 stores and a distributor in New Zealand, which is wildly successful
Wow.
for not even a year old business to do. And then from there, it's just growing, which is kind of crazy. Balancing school, friends, and work at 13 was pretty crazy, but I had a lot of support. So I'm pretty lucky in that sense.
That is so unreal. It's like, yeah, I was just thinking about you're still going to school, you
Mhm.
obviously have a social life, now
Yeah.
you're figuring out how to start a business. And, I know how crazy a business
Yeah.
is. So, and I'm like fully mentally developed, should be able to handle life, still can't.
Yeah.
And you're 13 doing this. So, this is absolutely unreal.
Mm.
Um, so how did you go from idea to manufacture? You mentioned your mum was in the rag trade. Did she
Yeah.
have like support you, or how did you actually go about getting the first collars manufactured?
Yeah, so I think it was actually probably from like my savings, which was like minuscule. We both looked because obviously she's worked with dealing finding manufacturers beforehand. And we went actually sort of the month that Georgie was launched, we went to India with her own business and jewelry. And we met up with
Oh,
just a
wow.
couple of people within the industry that worked with leather. And they actually brought the idea to us of using buffalo leather, which
Mhm.
is actually what we use across all our products, which is great because it's actually a byproduct of the meat industry. And it's good because it doesn't crack in contact with salt water. So beach loving dogs are completely fine. Um, got a few samples from there, and we actually ended up finding our first communities to manufacture products in Pakistan. So even though we went to India to
Wow.
meet these people, we actually found more contacts there. The wonders of the internet and being able to find people online these days.
Yeah.
I don't think this would have been able to happen maybe 20 years, if I was born 20 years ago or something.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I started from there and got some samples, really liked them, dropped some designs, see if they could do it. And honestly, it's kind of crazy because usually you're trying to get a product, you're designing it, go through lots of samples, but it was really, I don't know, really easy. But this is also like 9 years ago, so I'm trying to really think back.
Yeah. You only remember the good parts now.
Oh yeah, like the canon events. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. That's super interesting. Like going, yeah, because I guess we've kind of gone through this time where I almost
Mm,
think buying trips and those sort of trips were a big deal. Then
Oh,
when
yeah.
COVID happened, like a lot of people started sourcing things online, like the whole
Mhm.
Alibaba movement.
Yeah.
And then I almost think people have gone almost like full digital now, like just they'll receive samples in,
Mm.
like give changes, send it back, wait for new samples.
Mm.
But there's something interesting, and maybe that's why you think it was easier because you got to go there and experience it and meet these people and see the
Yeah.
leather and do all of those things in person.
Yeah, I think it's the combination of the 2. For me and for the business to actually go and meet, um, our people at our work who's actually they're the ones who make it. Like, it's really important. I'm hoping to visit again, this year, because it's been a while. Like, COVID happened, and that was my final year of school, and then
Mm,
just a couple years after that, just trying to bring ourselves back up. Like, COVID was crazy for everyone. So I think this year will be the year to go back and see them, and they're lovely. They've been able to upgrade their facilities, which is amazing by working with us. So I'd love to see them as well. They're lovely people. So yeah.
that's so cool. And so
Mm.
how do you sell now? Is it online? Do you still do markets? Like, where are you at now?
Yeah, so we mainly are online. We do also do like we've got a wholesale side which is online, and we go to trade shows,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy thinking pre-COVID we used to do about 8 to 10 trade shows a year domestically and internationally, and now
Yeah,
because
wow.
there's trade shows now online as well, which is a whole new thing that came out of COVID.
Cool.
But
I
we
didn't
do
know that.
yeah, it's really interesting. So there's a major online component now to trade shows. Like, you can order online or you can go to the trade show. It's like a bit of a depending on the
Wow.
ones, obviously, but that's a whole new thing we've had to learn. But we do some retail markets. I mean, I still do sport on the weekends, so I like to
Yeah.
keep my weekends. That's my one thing. I'm like, please let me have my weekends. I'll do
Yeah.
everything in the week, but yeah,
Yeah. Oh, the dream, a weekend.
a weekend, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it. I didn't know that about wholesale trade shows that
Mm,
I mean, it makes sense that they would move
yeah,
online, but in my mind, I just visualize the big conference center, like going around
yeah.
from booth to booth. Yeah.
I still think buyers find, well, it depends. If you're like, travel is so expensive. It's always been
Mm,
expensive, but it's really expensive now. So
yeah.
if you're from WA and you've got to go to Sydney for your trade shows, it's easier if you can look online at catalogs, or even just if it's not an order platform on the trade show website, you can still see brands, and you
Yeah.
can plan out your day if you want to. You can see what products they're offering, but it's definitely a major increase of almost all trade shows now I've been to. There's at least a small product online component you have to fill out. You just don't go there physically. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's been a really interesting learning curve, and I think it's really valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like from a scale point of view,
Mm,
and like you say, travel and cost, being
mm,
able to do a portion of it online makes sense for you
hmm.
as a business as you're trying to grow and expand. Like, how can you
Yeah.
reduce costs potentially? So that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, we have our own wholesale catalog that gets updated frequently.
Mhm.
But going to physical trade shows most of the time is just to meet people face to face, because I still think people really value seeing product in person and meeting the people behind the business. I mean, I really value that. I like meeting my customers in person. I like seeing their face, not just an email signature.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the business is
And
speaking to
And I
customers.
think too, like everyone's been burnt by buying things online before, right?
Oh yeah.
You go, oh yeah, that picture looks so good, and you get it, and you're like, oh. So I can
Oh, that
imagine
doesn't look
if
the same. Yeah.
no, exactly. And like, so I imagine as a wholesaler who wants to buy, 10 or 100 or 1,000,
Mm,
they're like, I really want to know that it's good.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So
Do
correct.
you do much sampling for people? Do you like send them samples, or is it more that like come to the trade show, check it out?
Yeah, it's depending on the customer, which I mean can be a little bit discriminative, but
Yeah.
if you're a person who's looking into maybe more higher quantities, or if you're a brand like Harrods, Anthropologie, Nordstrom's,
Yeah.
I'll be more I like more inclined. Just maybe because because we are a small business, we're a team of
Yeah.
two, have been burnt by some people
Yeah.
who want samples sometimes, which is unfortunate because you don't want to think about that. But if they do, yeah, if they're wanting samples, we can provide. But there might just be just a bit
On a
awkward.
case by case basis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
It
yeah.
kind of sucks that some people ruin it for everyone else.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. And what about from a social media point of view? And like, so obviously with selling online, have you found
Mhm.
that social media is a big part of your sales and marketing strategy?
So I'm like the worst person at social media.
That's
Don't come for
hilarious. You're
me.
a young person. You're
I
supposed to
know.
be good
And
at
people
this.
were like, "You're meant to be so good at social media, like TikTok and Instagram." Like, I have like on my personal, I have like under 100 followers. I'm
That's
private.
funny.
I post
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
So, but it is something because it is such a valuable tool,
Yeah.
and it's something that we have been working towards end of last year and this year. Like, it's crazy to think like 8, 9 years in, we finally have a marketing plan for social
Yeah.
media.
Yep.
It's not just like oh, let's do a random post that's actually planned. And putting that into practice, it works. Um, and I can so see why people spend so much time, so much money into it, because honestly, we're all glued to our phones. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna see something, you're gonna see something on there. But yeah, we're getting there. We're
I
getting
love
there.
it. No, and I love it too because I think we all do have that assumption where like
Mm,
you're e-commerce, you're young, surely you're like a TikTok queen. And you're like, meh, no, we've got there's
absolutely
other
not.
ways to do business.
There is. And
Yeah.
I think maybe in my generation, I'm a bit more old fashioned in the sense of like, I like meeting people, I do my
Yeah.
emails, but it is something that I do enjoy when I have the
Mm.
time. So that's why we do have Hannah, who's our amazing content and marketing girl, and she just helps us out with that, which is a lifesaver. Absolute
That's
lifesaver
so
for me.
cool. I love it. It's so good. And it's just such a great like reflection that everyone's different in business. Everyone has
Mm,
their thing. You don't have to be, all over everything or love everything or make yourself love everything to
yeah.
have a successful business.
No, you're so correct.
Do you find that wholesale's bigger or e-commerce is bigger for you at the moment?
It's interesting because it always used to be wholesale, and then we just had the e-commerce. It did its thing.
Yeah.
But then e-commerce is what really got us through COVID. So
Mm.
for the past couple of years, it's been really trying to get the website brilliant in the sense of inventories on there, updating
Yeah.
regularly, and then bringing through social media, actually putting effort into the
Yes.
e-commerce side, and it's paying off. I think we've just had one of the Christmas is usually the biggest period for everyone who sells anything, and that I think the Christmas that we've just had was the best one that we've had forever, and that's because we've just been trying to push a lot more, um, both into wholesale but not forgetting about our e-commerce and trying to bring that back up, which has been great. And I love it as well. That's usually what I do. So
Yeah.
Annette is more my wholesale export, import and export, whereas now I'm doing the e-commerce and actually digging in, taking courses and learning, and not just trying to, oh yeah, this looks right. Actually know what actually works.
I love that.
Mm.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, so you've been in business for 9 years and you're still like, no, like there's things to learn, there's courses to take, there's,
Oh my god,
more data
yes.
to review. Yeah.
And the world is changing so fast. So like my customers my customers who I was targeting when I was 13 may be the same a few now, but the target market that we have now is just crazy. Pets is so big already, but you're finding how many more people are now conscious buyers. Whereas compared
Mhm.
to back in 2016, oh, it's good to be sustainable. Oh yeah, solar power. Whereas that now there's grants to get solar power. Like there's a whole big push. There's no plastic bags. You can't get a plastic straw anymore. So it's definitely a
Yeah.
focus in a lot of people's minds, which is great for us because we've been trying to do this from the start. But it's like, yeah, and buyers are changing. Yeah, It's crazy. The world just moves so quickly nowadays, and sometimes it is a bit tricky to keep up and be a step ahead. So just sort of trying to even be there is, I think, the best you can do.
Oh, it's so true. And it's a really interesting point. Like, obviously being sustainable is something that you've been doing from the start and have been
Mm,
passionate about from the start. It's funny though, like sometimes when you're first, you kind of do have to wait for the world to catch up a
yeah.
little bit, but also
Yeah.
amazing because if you're doing good things, the world will catch up eventually if you
Mm,
can stick it out. And then that's where you see that, oh, people actually now Googling sustainable XYZ. And so if you're
yeah.
already there, you've already got the website, the content happening, all that kind of stuff, like you start to, I don't know, get on more people's radar. I think it's really cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I think we were doing like compostable mailers when I think there was only a couple of businesses doing them
Oh, yeah.
in Australia way back. And then there was, unfortunately, we ran out at Christmas time, and we had to revert back to biodegradable, which is completely different when you think of compostable. Compostable is way better,
Mm,
because then it's actually gone, whereas biodegradable still breaks down into a little something. And I
yeah.
had an email from a customer saying, "Oh, like I'm a little bit disappointed because there are compostable mailers and your products are amazing, and I love how they can all go back in the earth, but you're using a biodegradable like satchel." And I'm like, "I know, trust me. Like I would rather send out your order than use like a plastic bag, unfortunately, from like the post office or something, or make you wait for your order." So it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we actually use this, and we use biodegradable tape, and you can remove that." And I'm so sorry,
Wow.
but yeah, it's really interesting because I probably would have never gotten an email like that, maybe even like 4 years ago still.
Yeah, that's so true. Like it's interesting. Like I don't even know how it's interesting to think about how much people think about these things. Like I think about my
Mm,
orders that come from, a variety of different places. And now that you say that, yes, I know like the ones that use those particular compostable mailers, the ones that just comes in a box or the ones that it comes in like, yeah, you're right, like
mm,
the Australia Post satchel.
yeah.
And it is that I kind of, from me as a consumer, nobody hate me, but I probably don't think about it that much. Like I'm like,
Mm,
whatever it comes in is what it comes in. That's not why I buy it. But I'm buying it for the product, not the packaging. But you're so right. Like people do care about end to end. Like they care about the
mm,
whole, they care that you as a brand care about all of those things and have
yeah.
gone to the effort of sourcing all of those things. So the whole experience aligns with their values.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's really interesting seeing that shift in growth and people actually thinking like that. Like, it's been a long time doing this, thinking back.
Yeah. Totally. And I mean, just super cool that it's even possible now, right? Like, I
Oh, yeah.
follow a couple of people, like the hero packaging girl, who's
Hmm.
amazing.
We
Like,
use her products. Yeah.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and it's like, yeah, this exists now. Like, if you want it,
Mm.
you can actually make that a part of your brand and a part of your offering. But you're right. Like 20 years ago, it would be unheard of.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even know if it would have existed 20 years ago. Like, it was a rarity 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's again with the shift and change and people become a bit more conscious about what we actually do and our impact. But this is just
Yeah.
me geeking out, being a bit of a
I
nerd.
love
So
it. No, it's so cool. And I think like that's the kind of the fun thing about business is you can
mm,
geek out as much as you want. It's your business.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
Oh,
that's
that's
the
so
dogs.
good. No, I love it. So that is so on brand for you being
I
a dog
literally.
lover company. Oh my God, that's hilarious. What do you think's been the biggest challenge for you over the 9 years?
I think definitely at the start being taken seriously.
Yeah.
As a 13-year-old or even as a 16-year-old girl, trying to push this and trying to get my product out there and getting people to listen to me. I mean, I went on Shark Tank when I was 14. Um,
What? Did
so
you?
I did, yeah. That was probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, but it was
Yeah.
really valuable. Um, you can't find the episode because I was only a snippet, but I did do the whole thing. So I pitched the idea and everything, and I remember doing that. And the sort of the gist of the advice was great product, love it, but stay in school and don't export. So this is just before I started exporting to the US. And later that year, I got my first agent, and I was doing like 3 trade shows over there, and it was stay in school. And I was like, oh, but why can't I do both?
Isn't
Um,
that like so
and I went and did
infuriating?
both. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so mad on your behalf. Like, don't hold me back. Like, yeah, that's so like, you're
Yeah.
like, I have an amazing idea and the world is my oyster.
Mm.
Why couldn't you do both? And you
Yeah. And
did, obviously.
I did, to the end of my schooling. And I just think back to that time, and like if I could go back to myself before I went onto that set and just be like, whatever they say, trust your gut
Yeah.
and don't be so scared.
It's hard though, right? Like I'm
Mm.
40 and I get scared.
Oh yeah. It's, I don't know. It was one of the wildest experiences, and I was really lucky that I had a really lovely group of mentors, or just even mum's friends who run a business or work in the business sector, because they were quite supportive. And I feel like if I didn't have um, those adults around me when I was then, I think it would be a lot more difficult, especially like
Mm.
for my mental health and trying
Yeah.
to push this thing and not working. Um, but anyway, we went through it, we grew, and I think we had a great year. So
Yes.
and we continued to. So we
You are
overcome
absolutely
challenges,
incredible.
but yeah.
Oh, and you have to, right? Like I think the
Mm,
challenges never end. They just change or get bigger, you know,
mm,
the more you're in business and the bigger you grow. So I think
yeah.
you
It's like,
are absolutely incredible.
well, thank you. It's like I'm 21, and I still get some people not taking me seriously, and I've
Yeah.
had that for the, like, it's not as much now, but it's still like, oh, you're 21, and I'm like, yeah, this is your full time job. And I'm like, yes.
Yes. Oh my God, that must be
Yeah,
so frustrating. You're like, but at least now I guess you've got the track record. Like you've got the
yeah,
website, you've got the socials, you've got the stockists, you've got
yeah.
the catalogs, you've got the inventory.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't matter how old I am. This is the business.
Yeah. But it's really interesting because a lot of people don't realize that there's so many cool young people doing amazing things, especially in the business world.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of get like a, oh, you're young.
Totally.
Yeah.
This is why I think it's so bad. And I don't know how the parents of the world will feel about this
Mm.
because I'm not a parent, but like I feel like it's so bad that they're shutting off social media for I don't know, I think it's like you've got to be 16 or something now to be on social media. They're bringing in a law in
Yeah, I think
Australia.
that, yeah, I think that's coming. I don't know. It's been talked
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Totally. But I'm like, but wait, what about like all of these younger people who are doing
Mm.
awesome things, creating businesses, building apps, you know, building products? Like
Yeah.
that would be their sales channel. And you're kind of putting that restriction on them. And I'm like, I'm sure there's great things about it, but I'm like,
Mm.
young people do awesome stuff. Like, why hold
Mm.
them back? Why not give them access to the things that adults have? Yeah, it's wild.
It's really tricky, and I'm pretty
Mm.
sure surely there'd have to be a loophole if it's not
Yeah, like
like a
your parents could
personal.
manage the business account or something.
Yeah, there would have
Mm,
to be something, because especially nowadays, like how much of a major push and pull
yeah.
that is for consumers, it's crazy.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, I love it so much. Now, I always love to wrap up these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So,
Hmm.
reflecting on your time in business, what would
Hmm.
be a piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her business journey?
To give it a crack, honestly. If I didn't go, yeah, why not? Let's actually see if I can even A, get a product, and B, put it in front of a person and they'll like it. Um, why not? If I didn't do that, I
Mm.
wouldn't have had this, and I don't know what I would be doing for the past, besides from like school and living and life. But my career wise, I'd have no idea. And to give it a crack in, persistence, but be flexible with that persistence. So I can be quite a stubborn person. So I've had to learn to be flexible, because people are flexible. If your customer may not like a certain aspect, or they have a recommendation or feedback, you got to take that on board, because at the end of the day, if they don't like it, you're not gonna be very successful, unfortunately. So I think, give it a crack, persist and keep on trying, but be flexible. I think those are my three holy grails that sort of push me through. And I think they're pretty universal as well.
I love it. Violet, you are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on Spark TV and sharing your story. You are absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.